Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Grand Cruise Astrology. My name is Clayton, and this video we're going to talk about Saturn going retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. And just to pay some respect to Saturn, I've worn the shirt and the tie, and to pay some respect to Aquarius, I've got my hair all funked out for right now. Um, as far as the hair, I can't get a haircut anywhere, so I'm just trying to have fun with it. Let's get started. We have three planets going retrograde in May. We have Saturn, we have Jupiter, and we have Venus, all within a few days, a week of each other, like right there together, going retrograde. Uh, May, there is some pause to some of that forward push, and we're going to get into some of that. But the first planet, I'm going to do videos. Definitely going to do a video about Venus retrograde and probably Jupiter as well, but Saturn especially. I want to hit on Saturn first. Saturn's going to go retrograde first, and Saturn is part of what this bigger picture that I've been seeing here, which is building a new container for the collective. Um, is what I'm seeing Saturn doing, being that it ingressed into Aquarius in late March, right around March 22nd, and it when it moved into Aquarius, it was moving very slowly because it was getting ready to go retrograde. So it hung right around 0 degrees and 1 degrees for about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and now it's getting ready to turn in reverse and go backward and do some reassessment of what changes have been made. Um, the fact that it was in early Aquarius, Aquarius again it's the energy of expression. It expresses the energy of group dynamics, systems that create the most individual expression within the confines of a group. Um, Aquarius is traditionally it's a Saturnian ruled sign. So what that means is that although we think of Aquarius and we think, this is a sign that is a little, it's a little strange, it's a little avant-garde, it's a little sort of eccentric, even weird, depending on how it's aspected. It does have a moral code, and it does have strict adherence to group and what is good for the group. It's in a sense it's very humanitarian, and yet in a way also very utilitarian, because though it is conscious of individual expression, only so far as it pertains to the group. Anything outside of that is irrelevant. So Aquarius can be a very objective, a very, in a way, dispassionate. It's fixed air, but in a lot of ways, very fair. It sort of it does things by the book, but it can be a little off color because it's a book that nobody's read, right? So it's an interesting energy in Aquarius that we're dealing with. So as it's gone through that very first 0 degrees and 1 degree of Aquarius, I see that because it was moving so slowly and spent so much time there. It's like it was entering Aquarius and saying, "Okay, we have a new reality now." We remember back to late March. That's when we said, "Okay." We looked around, and said, "Okay, there needs to be changes made to address everyone involved." Yes, we have our own individual desires, but we need to create a container that supports that, because the one that we have right now is not supporting this new world that we're stepping into, given the considerations that we have. So that's how I kind of saw it when it moved in there, and it kind of just parked itself. Now, when it did that, we had Mars going through, and it brought a lot of tension to that. Mars is still in Aquarius, will be there for another couple weeks, I believe. So Mars, especially early on when it was right on Saturn, it brought some tension with that. Uh, Saturn said, "Look, we have some new considerations. We have some things we have to do. We have some new limitations that we have to put in place to account for everything. And Mars said, "The hell with that, man." Like, what about the individual expression? So there was just this clash, and a lot of endings happened at that time too. Very, very tense energy. Mars is moving on from that direct clash with Saturn. I think that was right around early April, the 1st of April, somewhere in there, that we had Mars and Saturn together. So as we moved through April, Mars started to slowly move away, and that tension started to release a little bit. And so that's kind of on waning, and so that's good in a way. So for right now, we're going to have Saturn moving backwards. So what does that mean? It's going to go retrograde. So it's going to become more reflective. We're going to reflect on what we have built in the new container and these new systems that we've put in place, right? And what do they mean for us? And what do we do with that? Okay, so Saturn is going retrograde this week. It's going to be retrograde in Aquarius until we hit July 2nd. Once we hit July 2nd, it's going to track back into Capricorn. Now, when it tracks back into Capricorn, that is, I see that as, so right now we're reflecting on the newness, the new container that we're building for individuals to create self-expression within. All right. That's what we're doing with Saturn Aquarius. When it tracks back into Capricorn, Capricorn is a little bit more practical. It's a little bit more, it's an earth sign. It's a little bit more tangible, practical. It has a lot to do with tradition, the old guard. So when it tracks back in there, we are going to be assessing what has value in, like, what traditions, what customs, what have we built in the past that has value going forward. Because there's going to be, as Saturn goes retrograde, we're already reflecting. Okay, so going retrograde in Aquarius. Okay, well, how does these systems apply? We put this together very quickly here, but how is this really going to work? And then when it goes back into Capricorn, it says, okay, well, there are things that the ways we've always done things that are not going to work anymore. But waste not. What does work? What does work? What can we carry forward? Because Saturn is a very efficient planet in the things that it builds. So it loves to discard that which is no longer relevant. But it also loves to preserve that which does have value, that which is relevant, which is what you can build upon. So with Saturn going retrograde, we're sort of reflecting on this. We're going to be reflecting on what of this does have value and what doesn't. What do we need to get rid of? Whereas when it's going forward, it's more of an active process. It's like, okay, this stays, that goes, and it just moves forward, and Saturn's very discerning in that way. But when it goes retrograde, it's a little more reflective. There's a little bit more room for reflection, thought, debate. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, it's going to go direct toward the end. It's going to go direct. It's going to hit Capricorn in December. It's going to be back in Aquarius, moving forward. So at that time, we're going to be moving forward with this new container that we're building as a collective, as a community. Okay, so you can kind of see it as right now, up until the end of the year, we're sort of in reflection mode a bit about what has value, what do we want to do, and how do we want to push it forward. Okay, and how do we create that which was what we're going to create, what we're going to build, right? So this is a process that we're all involved in. Okay, we are and I've said, this container is being built, but it's a human construction, right? And we are human beings within the container building the construction. So we all have a voice in this. We all have, we all have an impact if we want to, and so this is a time to be part of that conversation. This is also about talking about fixed air. This is also about technology. This is also about rules of how we connect with one another. This can be about communication and movement. So I mean, this can also be about the big issues that come up around what freedoms do we have? Freedom of speech, freedom to communicate. Like, uh, what is being what are rules around engagement in this way, and do we agree with that as individuals? Is this what we want? All right, these are questions that are being posed that we're going to all be answering together collectively. So this is the energy that we have right now. This is a Saturnian energy. It is very impersonal, but it affects us personally, and so it's going to be, as individuals, we're all going to be engaging with this, and we're going to be deciding what kind of container is built. And when Saturn does go direct and does go back into Aquarius, it's going to be hitting at the end of the year. It's going to be hitting Jupiter, and at that time, they're going to be together at 0 degrees Aquarius. And I've said this in other videos, but at that time, I do see, whereas earlier it was very contentious when we had in early April when we had Saturn with Mars there. Very contentious energy about this newness, about these things we're creating. When Jupiter hits Saturn in mid to late December, and on into the new year, there's going to be some optimism about what it is that we're building together. I do think a lot of the details that need to be hashed out, a lot of the disagreements, a lot of the squabbling, a lot of the just reflecting on what's working, what isn't. I think a lot of that is going to be worked out here. We're in a process of it, and it may not be comfortable, but from now till the end of the year, we're going to be working this out. And by the end of the year, into next year, I think we're going to move forward. It's going to be a new day, and I think we're going to move forward with new optimism about it, whatever it is we are building. It's not going to be perfect. It never is. But that's a little bit of hope I can give you, delivered by Jupiter there toward the end of the year. So that's what we have to work with Saturn going retrograde for right now. It's about reflection on some of these larger structures that we're working within and our place within it. And it's an ongoing thing. And once we hit July, it'll get a little more practical, a little more tangible, a little bit less future oriented. For a couple of months there, but toward the end of the year. But then once we hit the very end of the year into next year, we will be back with Saturn and Aquarius, and it'll be in Aquarius proper, and we will be building this new construct, building this new future vision that we collectively together are dreaming of. So that's what I got for you as far as Saturn is going retrograde. These planets are going retrograde. They're all going to affect us very differently. So, if you want to know how it affects you personally, you can look at my website, grandcruiseastrology.com. I do personal readings if it's something you want to do. It's something you want to take a look at. Link to my website is in the discussion box. But if not, I've got more videos coming up here on YouTube for the other. Definitely going to do a video about Venus retrograde. Probably going to do one about Jupiter too. So look for that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.